Hello and welcome back to Breaking Ground on iPropertyRadio with myself, Carol Tallon. You can contact us on social media at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. This week, I'm chatting to Bill Hill, CEO of the Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity, which we have mentioned several times on the show over the last number of years. It's one that we very much like to promote the work. And unfortunately, it tends to only get promoted really during Health and Safety Week. And every year we say, well, that's not the only time to do that. So today we're living up to this. Bill, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
It's a real pleasure to be here, and thanks very much for inviting us.
Bill, I'm a huge fan of the work that you and the team at Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity do. I know you work very closely with the CIF in Ireland here, and most of our clients, our listeners, our audience would be members of the CIF. So we know that this is a service that is available to not just Irish members of the construction industry in Ireland, but also to their families. And it's a point that we try to emphasize kind of regularly enough. But one of the things that certainly from our perspective, we picked up, positive mental health was brought into Construction Safety Week over the last kind of, I think, maybe 5 years, which is great. Welcome. Absolutely. It's welcome. But it's so important that we are taking care of the mental health of the industry every day throughout the year. So I'm really keen to talk to you about that. What more can we be doing? So look, you might just give, for anybody who's not familiar, you might just give a bit of background as to Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity and just explain what it is and the services that you offer.
Yeah, sure. And we've been around for quite a while. We were sort of established in 1956, so we've been around quite a while. In fact, I think we started in Ireland, I think about 1963. We've always had one of our local regional lighthouse clubs in Ireland since then. But we wake up every day and we're 100% dedicated to the welfare and well-being of the construction workforce and their families in the UK and Ireland. That's our remit. And our vision is that no construction worker or their family should be alone in a crisis. And what we do is we deliver 5 completely free services to anyone working in construction and their families. First of all, we get the 24/7 helpline. It's available for emotional, physical and financial support. We've got Text Hard Hat, which will immediately get through to somebody who can give them some counselling for those people that don't want or don't have the courage to make the phone call. We've got a terrific little app you can download called the Construction Industry Helpline app. It's packed full of information, advice and guidance on emotional, physical and financial support. And then we've got a fantastic new training centre called the Lighthouse Wellbeing Academy, which allows people to get access to self-paced training on soft skills subjects like building resilience, managing their own budget, and even meditation and for construction as well. So it's got a lot of courses in there. And then we've also got tutored courses and leadership courses building on that whole academy. And the thing we're really proud of is the 5th service, which is we built out a nationwide network. And I can't remember how many is in Ireland, but we've got, I think, 70 or 80 lighthouse beacons in Ireland, where we've looked to see what's available for people to drop into if they're working away from home, to get socialisation and meet other people, like-minded people in a non-judgmental environment. And these places are usually facilitated by skilled people who can recognise problems and help and get signposted to help as well. So all those services are absolutely free and available to everybody in Ireland. And we are trying our hardest to get that message out there, because awareness is one of the big problems we've got, is getting just people aware that these services are actually available. And the second big problem is getting them to use them, because the vast majority of the population in construction are men, and we're not all that brilliant about asking for help in this particular dimension.
Yeah.
So,
look, Bill, I think that's very true. And look, obviously, construction industry, while we're improving by attracting more women into this sector, it is still very much male dominated. Do you see, though, in terms of, I know what you're saying, that sometimes men, and it's a huge generalization to say that, you know, they mightn't be the best at talk about problems. But I mean, certainly from my perspective, I've seen that start to change over the past decade. How are you seeing it? The fact that you have the perspective over such a long time of the English and Irish marketplace, are you seeing a shift in kind of the culture around being able to talk about, to being able to talk, to being able to step forward and look for help?
Yeah, and it's generational for sure. Grey hairs. I was brought up in an environment where you weren't left to expose yourself in this way. You were supposed to be tough, put a lid on it, grow up hair, all those sort of type things. You were told as a kid, don't cry, don't do this. So we've got a generational issue to work with as well, because if you look at the demographic within construction, it's heavily skewed towards that older generation. We're not getting enough young people through, but that's where we see the breakthrough, is that the younger people coming through are more willing to talk about this subject matter, which is great. The second thing which I see as a bit of a breakthrough is putting the right kind of vehicle, sorry for the pun here, but the right kind of vehicle on site. And what we've had is a tremendous success with a program that we've been using called Make It Visible on Site. And we've been putting 2 tradesmen inside a very highly covered coloured van provided to us by Ford, free of charge. Thanks very much, Ford. And they've given us a van. We've been in Ireland and done a tour in Ireland, and getting to those sites and getting tradespeople in front of other tradespeople and talking about their lived experience and what they've done, etc., has really opened up the conversation cross-generation, which is brilliant. And it really has made people talk, which is exactly what to do. So starting the conversation is vitally important, and then creating an environment where it's okay to have those types of discussion on an ongoing basis. So we're making some breakthroughs, but with culture change, it's going to take a long time. But the good news is it is absolutely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's really positive to hear, Bill. One of the things I think the services that you provide, there are a robust list of services there, and it's great. And again, we'll kind of recap those before we close out today. But one of the important things you mentioned there was around training and resiliency training. And one of the things that, certainly I've thought about, having been in the industry for a decade and a half or so, and having come through the crash more than a decade ago, one of the things that dawned on me is that we always talk about the resiliency of the construction industry, and how resilient individual construction company owners are, and how resilient contractors and tradespeople are. And at some point, does that stop being kind of a positive attribute, and does it start to almost be a mantle that you have to hold up? Should we maybe stop talking about how resilient the industry is and talk about how vulnerable it can be allowed, or that it's okay to be vulnerable, that you don't have to be resilient all the time? Like, does this become almost like, I suppose, something that you have to prop up then?
I don't think so. I mean, resilience has got many facets to it, and when you're talking about companies' resilience, then okay, is putting money away in the good times for making sure you're okay for the bad times. And some good companies have done that. And you look at some of the owners of some of these companies, especially the family ownership companies, who treat their workforce like family. They're absolutely amazing to look after those people in the hardship times, because they put stuff aside. You look at some of the more corporate oriented organizations, and probably they have less of that connection with the workforce, because a very large proportion of the workforce are self-employed agency workers or on 0-hour contracts. So there's not the same emotional attachment to those individuals as you would get in a family company. So there's different ways of looking at this, but I think individual resilience is actually having the capability of being able, sorry about that. Individual resilience is having the capability of exposing yourself as well. That is part of being resilient, is being able to discuss tough activities.
Very good. And I noticed at the start, you put kind of an almost equal emphasis on the emotional health, the physical health, and obviously the financial. So does financial play a huge role in what would present maybe as issues?
Without a doubt, the highest call to our helpline is people in financial difficulty. And that goes back to having some confidence in the money coming into the household as well. And if you are self-employed agency worker or you're a contractor, then you are concerned all the time about having some constant flow of finance coming into the company. But with that finance worry comes mental health issues. And so I think, again, what I want to try and do as an organisation is to try and raise the agenda to health and well-being of our workforce. And that includes the mental health, the physical health, the financial health, and also the environmental health as well, because having a horrible place to go to work is not good for your mental health. So it's about how do we work as an industry to make sure there are some really good standards in place for the sites that our workforce work in, that actually we don't make their well-being worse by coming to work. I mean, everybody is responsible for their own well-being. A company is not responsible for your well-being, but they are responsible for creating an environment when you have to work in that we don't make it worse. And if we can, we'll make it better in that environment. So it's creating the right environment as well. And that's what we need to do, is raise that game to that level to be able to make it a better place to work.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in terms of the environmental factors. Bill, I might just take it back a step, because sometimes I feel like there has been the conversation. You talked about the importance of starting a conversation and almost going back to the start, and it's something I see in kind of lots of different facets of professional life, that sometimes when you're on a track, you forget to go back and bring people along with you from the start. So let's just go back and talk about, is there kind of a definition of what positive mental health is? I mean, do people know the difference between, situational challenges and when that starts to impinge on mental health? Is there a strong awareness around that, or is there a level of education that needs to happen around that?
I think you've made a point there. I mean, I think there's a level of education to understand when you are feeling down for a long period of time and it's having an impact on you, and certainly looking at the waterfall effect of a highly stressful position. Now, stress is actually good for you in short bursts. It makes you feel very aware, very capable, sharp, etc. But if you get stress every single day, it releases obviously the wrong chemicals inside your brain, which then can lead to anxiety. You start getting anxious about the work because you're really stressed. And then if you get anxious for a long period of time, you can head straight forward into a depressive state as well over a period of time. So I think if we make people aware that this can happen, and also having mood swings, on a regular basis is absolutely fine. Most people have them. But if you're in a low mood for a long period of time, you need to do something about it. You need to do something to take yourself away from that situation, either to do some self-coping strategies or to seek some sort of help or guidance through that process to get you back on track. And so that is education. And I think you've hit a good point there. And that's something we can do to the workforce, is educate them in that way.
We would love to get to a stage where people have an awareness about maybe their own current state, and you said it yourself, people are responsible for their own well-being. But in terms of the building site being such almost a unique environment in terms of the activities that happen there, and actually increasingly becoming a bit of an isolated one, where we've got more technologies and fewer people on site, and maybe people coming in and out, so you don't have the consistency that you might have had on a building site 20 years ago, working with the same crew, doing the same thing. Are there things that may be unique to a construction site that all workers could be watching out for amongst themselves and each other? Are there symptoms that are maybe presenting, or behaviours that are presenting over and over again?
Yeah, that does actually come with, if you're working with the same people for a reasonable amount of time. And I'm a firm believer. I mean, the women in society have got a fantastic antennae for being able to pick up the vibes of somebody who's feeling down. I feel men have got the same antennae. We just don't decide to use it. And so sometimes when you see somebody in a little bit crash, the answer is to walk on by. And there's three little golden nuggets I use all the time is, is if you see somebody who you think is not having a good time, just ask them if they're okay. And don't ask them once, but ask them twice, because the second time you might get a different answer. And make sure you've got enough time to spend with them. If they do decide to unload to you, make sure you get enough time to give them that space. And then the second golden nugget is seek to understand before you seek to be understood, which is don't judge what they're saying, because their problems from their side, their lens, and it might be a problem to them, but it might not be a problem to you. You don't just labor in and say, well, that's not a problem, because it is to them. So it's trying to get that non-judgmental type conversation going, so they can unload without getting judged upon it. And the third one is very, very simple. It's just be kind. There's no reason to be unkind to another fellow human being in a building site, or anywhere for that matter. It's just be kind. And if you approach with those three golden nuggets, then the building site will be a better place.
Yeah. It sounds so simple when you say it like that, but I understand it's, it won't have been everybody's experience on a building site. So, I mean, that's probably something to bear in mind. But really, I'd love for people to feel some bit armed after this interview, that, they might be able to recognize some signals that a colleague in trouble or a colleague who's struggling might be sending out, and even if it is a case that you ask how somebody is and then ask again, that's a really important one. For people who might be feeling vulnerable right now, what's the first step to getting in touch, and how do they know it's the right time to be reaching out to you?
Well, I guess it's how to break down the barriers that an individual will probably know that they are not in a good place. I believe you're sitting in a bad place and not actually recognizing you're not, the world is not turning in the right direction for you. It's then having the courage to be able to go talk to somebody or to reach out for that help. And that's, again, breaking down, especially the male psyche is not conditioned in that way. And it's breaking down and creating an environment to allow that to happen. And also to have all of the things available on the site to say that, here's a telephone number to call, or there's maybe a well-being champion on site as well, that somebody's a safe person to talk to on site. And it's creating that environment for them to go to. And then it's the work colleagues as well to recognize it and actually give them the prompting and help to say, come on, buddy, you're really down at the moment. Let's get you off to see somebody or to talk to somebody. Come on, let's move, or go for a cup of tea with them or something. It's about that, being able to do that. But the environment, because it's so transient, is quite difficult to do. And also you've got language barrier and religious barriers and all those things. You've got this whole potpourri of society inside the building sites. That sometimes overcoming those barriers is quite difficult, but we all must try.
Yeah, Bill, based on your experience across the English and Irish market, are people more likely to reach out to you on the 24/7 helpline or on your text line, the text helpline, Hard Hat?
Both. With the texting is coming on and growing quite strongly, but what I'm really pleased to say, I mean, last year we saw a 20% growth in the people contacting our helpline, which is very encouraging. So I think it's getting that helpline out there. Talking to a real person is if you can talk to somebody on site, is absolutely the best thing. If your buddy's on site, or there's a well-being champion on site who has got the skills to be able to talk and give them signposting to the right place, etc. That's got to be the best. And family and friendships are without doubt the number one place to go. But if you haven't got that surrounding you, then it's picking up the phone and talking to somebody who's going to listen to you and take you through a process to help you get to a better place and get you the help and support that you need. So for me, picking up the phone is probably the easiest.
Super. Bill, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today. And I will make sure that those helpline and the text information is circulated with this interview, because this is something that is likely to impact everybody at some stage in their life. So we want to make sure those resources that are available are known. Apologies, I know we're cut for time today, so we didn't even have time to really go through one of your really exciting initiatives, which is Make It Visible. So actually we might touch base with you in a couple of months' time, or even less, and see what we can do to make sure that that's on some of the building sites in Ireland that it really ought to be on. So maybe that's something we can work with you on over the coming months to make sure we do that, and we'll do a check-in at that stage. But for now, apologies, that's all we have time for. My thanks to Bill Hill, CEO of Lighthouse Construction Industry Charity. And that's it from us this week. You can get in touch with the show on social media at iPropertyRadio, or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. My thanks as always to the Hear Me Roar production team and to Luke Delaney on sound for Dublin South FM. Until next time, thank you for listening.